Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. It's your t-shirted historian. Here we are with another week in Geek. I didn't really have any seriously burning issues on my mind this week. If you follow Twitter, I know you guys have been watching the meltdown going on between parties over David Wesley's Braunstein games. I already know how I feel about all this, and I've made it known pretty well to a lot of friends how I feel about it. I wish things were better, you know? And I know that a lot of times people say, hey, we need to gatekeep our hobby. And I can't help but think, in some cases, certain elements are being gatekept just a little too hard. For example, we know that somebody is sitting on lots of documentation down in their basement that would, give us all kinds of knowledge and clues and value to old style play, to the thoughts of older creators, and other gaming legacy things. And for their own purposes, they choose to sit on these things instead of making them available, possibly, even selling them to some kind of a document museum or making them somehow available. And, they can still make money on this stuff. But they're keeping them for their purposes. And, whether I agree or disagree with it, I think it's a little unfair to everybody else because I think a lot of us in the hobby are very reverent of those who came before, because we speak names like Gygax, Arneson, Kuntz, Moldvay, Wells, and just the Jacques. All these people, we speak their names with reverence. We acknowledge that these are the people who are, the forerunners of our hobby and our legacy. And all we really want to do is honor them and honor the stuff that they did. And, we use the names that they used for their stuff. And some people apparently object to the use of that term as misleading or some such. And I don't really want to get into all this argument about it because, it's still raging on Twitter. There's lots of points of view on it. I don't agree with a lot of it. I do know who I agree with and who I don't. I've made it known to certain parties how I feel about it. And just speaking from a historian's point of view, I honestly wish that all of it was released so that we could all enjoy it and see it. I don't care if the parties who hold these things want to paywall it in some way. I mean, I acknowledge, I get it. They had to go out and do the research and the interviews and all the other stuff in order to get this stuff. I get that. There's work involved. That's money spent. And that's fine. Certain, people should get paid for the things that they held on to and stuff. But the thing is, make it available. Don't just sit back and tell people, say, oh, well, you're doing this wrong and I have all the documents, and, until you see them, you're just doing it wrong, because that's just bad behavior, in my opinion. It's like, if I have a copy of a book, and I have a lot of books on my shelf. I have a lot of old books on my shelf. I have a lot of old gaming books on my shelf. Some of them are things that people would very much love to have. Okay? I mean, like, I've got a complete set of Cult. The original Cult, not the new stuff. The original first printing Cult books. I have them all. They're all sitting in my shelves. They've been there since I got them back in the 90s. I've had people offer me money for them, and I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to sell them. And I don't mind selling them if, there's a good price involved, because, obviously I'm not using them right now. I'm not exactly running a lot of hot cult games. I don't anticipate running a lot of hot cult games. And if somebody is going to be needing them to do that, then it behooves me to sell these things off and let somebody else enjoy them, because, books aren't really meant to sit on a shelf and not be read. Books are meant to be read. Books are meant to be used. They're meant to be enjoyed, just like everything else in our hobby. And I always, I'm probably not the only one who feels a certain fondness when you see somebody pull out a very old, dog-eared, corner-bent, scuffed up copy of a book, that was maybe printed back in the 80s or the 90s. Because that book's got some history to it, and, it's had a lot of use, it's got a lot of love. So there's something that you can appreciate about stuff like that. But the main thing is, let somebody have access to these things. Let people use them. If somebody wanted to, buy my original copy of like The Complete Alchemist, because I've got The Complete Alchemist, the green book. I don't necessarily know that I'd sell it, but I'd probably try to find some way to let them get a copy. It's not like the company's in business anymore. I don't think it's making any money on it. So if it's stuff that's out of print, definitely, I wouldn't mind, somebody getting a hold of that stuff. Because I get it, I've come across more than one set of books that were used and paid really good money for it. I mean, like, my copy of Maze of Blue Medusa cost me $175 because it's out of print. And the one I got was in just absolutely pristine condition. And it was a ton of money, but I had to have it. I had to see it. I had to own it. I had to have a physical copy because there's no digital copies of it anywhere, as far as I'm aware. I mean, there might be, but I don't know for sure. I was pissed off that I couldn't get a hold of an original boxed set of Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I'm glad they made the PDFs available on their website. But yeah, when I was originally hunting down all my Lamentations of the Flame Princess books, Radgy didn't have any copies in the store of a lot of the older titles. I had to go through the eBay scalpers and pay ridiculous prices for a lot of the books that I have. And I treasure those books because, one, I had to pay a pretty penny for them, and two, they're hard to get now. And I appreciate the value. But that's the thing, if you're just sitting on something just to make it acquire value, it's kind of an ill intent. I'm not sitting on any of my books because I want to watch them appreciate in value. Well, I take that back. There's one set of books I'm sitting on only for the purposes of reselling at a later date, and that is my copy of the 5th edition Spelljammer, simply because it has all the references that are going to be deleted out of future copies. I figure that might be worth something to somebody in the future, but nobody's really hitting me up for it at this moment. I mean, there's no scarcity. So that's a long-term investment. That's, maybe a 30, 40 years, because I'm definitely never going to use that copy of Spelljammer for anything. It's not even going to hold up the corner of a table or act as a doorstop. In my eyes, the book is absolutely worthless as a gaming material. Its only value is in its resale at some point. But these other books that I have, I'm not holding on to them to collect them. I'm holding on to them because I've read them, because I enjoyed them, and because at one time I harbored this crazy idea that I would someday get to use them, that I'd someday get to play these things. Big Eyes and Small Mouth. I thought someday I'll get to play this. Mekton. Someday I'll get to play this. Cult. Someday I'll get to play this. Twilight Conspiracy. Is it no Twilight Imperium? No, it's Twilight. Not Twilight 2000. This is the other one. They have Dark Conspiracy. I love that game, and I've got all the books for that, and I keep hoping I'll get to play that someday. I probably won't. I probably won't get to play half of these books. It makes me sad, but it is what it is. You know, I'm getting older. You know, the crowds are aging out, or they're going their own separate ways, or they're only interested in playing the mainstream crap, right? They don't want to try these other things. So herein comes the new stuff. The stuff that you can use as a gateway to introducing people to older products. And one of them, I think, that has been wildly successful and is very useful is Shadow Dark. Now, I've said it on more than one occasion. I was not on board with Shadow Dark to begin with. I thought Kelsey was just another upstart writer with some, lame-ass OSR labeled product that was trying to make money off the name without any of the real spirit or intent of the game. Just another also ran. But then, she showed me what she was worth. She complimented my friend Victor. She kind of helped him out, and that said a lot to me. Victor's not a big, huge publisher, but he's done a few things. He's made some not some winning contributions, but he's gotten close. I think Gods of the Frozen North he helped out on, that one and any. So it meant a lot to me that she did that. So I gave her fair shake. I checked out the book, and I like it. I mean, the artwork is pretty good. The size of the book is pretty good. I don't have a problem with the size of the print. I mean, a lot of people have said, like, oh, well, if she'd have shrunk that print size down, she could have, halfway, she could have shrunk the size of the book down. Yeah, she could have. She could have done all those things, but, she did what she did. And as a system, it isn't bad. It's got some great ideas. It's got some ideas I really like. It's got a few that I would like to use. Does it have long-term sustainable playability? I don't know. I haven't played it. It's one of those, we're going to hang on to it, and maybe one day we'll get around to playing it. If I don't run it myself, I'm going to have to, try to entice Grim into running it for us. Like he was supposed to run Dragonbane tomorrow. But apparently his motherboard bit the big one, so he won't be with us on the show this week. And he won't have a game tomorrow. Or the foreseeable future until he gets his motherboard replaced. But I digress. The point is, when I first saw advertising for Shadow Dark, it was supposed to be kind of a gateway between 5th edition and the OSR. The OSR has gotten some bad raps lately. It's gotten some bad connotations. A lot of people are stepping away from the name OSR. They don't want to be associated with it. Quite a few creators think the OSR is toxic. And even though we might label something as OSR, the actual brand holders themselves do not consider themselves OSR. Castles and Crusades does not consider themselves OSR. Alexander McCrease does not consider Axe to be OSR. Basic Expert does not want to be considered OSR. And that's understandable. The name has implications now, and some of them are pretty negative. But at the time, one of the things that was going on when Shadow Dark was coming out was we had WotC engaging in its stupidity with the OGL, trying to mess with it and get more money out of it, and people pretty much rebelled wholesale against that. And rightly so, because WotC pretty much showed their hand. They showed that they're grifters, money grubbers. They are inappropriate stewards of a legacy that is so far beyond them, so far beyond their comprehension, and reaches out to so many of us on levels that they don't even understand themselves. You know, they are absolutely shameful. And if I could, I'd buy that property out from underneath Hasbro in an instant. I'd even buy Hasbro itself just to own WotC if I could. Just to get it out of their hands and give it to somebody else that I thought would be more responsible with it. I absolutely would. But I can't. I can dream about this all day long. I can fix all the world's problems behind my desk, you know. And in my head, of course, it'll all work out perfectly. But we know that won't. You know, reality will intrude and remind you, oh, hey, guess what? You know, you still owe a whole bunch of money. Yeah, I know. I do. Point is, getting back to it, Shadow Dark was meant to be kind of a bridge between the OSR and 5th edition. It was a way to possibly entice people who were only used to playing 5th edition into playing something that was OSR adjacent. And in that category, it serves very well to do that because it's significantly more difficult than 5th edition. It has some different mechanics from 5th edition. It does a lot of things very well that transition out of 5th edition, but still has kind of the ease of play that 5th edition players are used to. It also has a lot of mainstream appeal. It hit pretty hard. It sold a lot of copies. More people have heard about it. There is a better chance of my being able to go into a friendly local gaming store, find a bunch of millennials or a bunch of Gen Zs to entice into a game of Shadow Dark than, say, well, my favorite game, Worlds Without Number. I mean, there just is. I'll have an easier time getting them to learn Shadow Dark than I will Worlds Without Number or Pendragon or Call of Cthulhu, or even Shadowrun. So if I can get them to learn Shadow Dark, then maybe I can pull some of them away from the 5th edition crap. Or maybe some of them will, you know, voluntarily leave 5th edition to try Shadow Dark, because as we all know, the not 6th edition, which is actually 6th edition, is on the horizon. And despite whatever WotC has tried to feed everybody, we know it's bullshit. We know 6th edition is not going to be backwards compatible with 5th edition or anything else. We know it's not. It'll require a lot of conversions. It'll require a lot of changes. Just on all different levels. So maybe we'll get enough of the disenfranchised 5th edition players who will want to try something else. Maybe we'll get them to try Shadow Dark. Maybe when they find out how easy it is and how simple the mechanics are, then we can tell them things like, oh, well, I mean, if you really like this, you should try Stars Without Number if you want to do something space game-wise. Or maybe try this other supplement for Shadow Dark, because there's a whole lot of support for Shadow Dark right now. There's a lot of books being made for Shadow Dark. That's a good thing. And then eventually, with enough time and enough experience, you can get some of these players to play some of the other off-brand stuff that you've been holding on to. Hey, you like this? Why don't you try Fabula Ultima? Why don't you try Cyberpunk? Why don't you try, anything else? Why don't you try Worlds Without Number? Why don't you try Scarlet Heroes? Why don't you try Dragonbane? Why don't you try any of these other systems? But take that first step, Take that first step. Try Shadow Dark first, because it's easy to get into. Now, I'm not a simp for Kelsey Dion. I don't have any illusions. She's not going to come to my house and give me a hug or anything. She's probably not even going to return an email if I tried to email her. So I'm just being honest on this, She's got more money than, I can even imagine. And that's fine. She earned it. Her only crime, as far as I can tell, in the eyes of anybody in the OSR community is that she's successful. So this crab bucket mentality that a lot of creators have gotten, where they just want to drag people down who are successful, it is just, it's just petty bullshit. It really is. It's crab bucket mentality bullshit. There's no need for that. She self-promoted. She made the deals. She marketed her stuff. She sold her stuff. Lots of people like her. Lots of people like her product. Lots of people bought her product. Hey, there's nothing stopping you from doing it too. Okay? Make the rounds. Take the time. Make something nice. Do a little bit of research to see what you're going to need to do it with, Do your layouts. Get some artwork together. And I'm not talking about AI-generated stuff. I mean real artwork by real artists. Stuff that looks good. Make your page values count. Make your books count for something. Do a little work. Don't just do cheap, quick knockoff stuff. Don't use ChatGPT to generate all of your formatting and stuff for you. Put out something good. Put out something quality. Show people that you actually care about what you're writing. I'm not a super duper successful, massive creator myself. Yes, I've made stuff. Yes, I'm getting royalties off of it. Am I OSR? You tell me. Okay? The only OSR thing I've written, as far as I can say, is a supplement for Machinations of the Space Princess, which is one of Grimm's books, which is considered to be OSR. So in that respect, yeah, I've written for the OSR. Is my book super hot? Is it super successful? Is it making me tons of money? No, it's not. It isn't. But I did all the artwork inside of it myself. For ill or for weal or for woe. That was my choice. I made all the artwork. I thought it would be a little bit cheaper and we could get it out a little bit faster if we did it that way. Is the artwork great? That's for other people to decide. I think it was adequate. Grimm obviously thought it was adequate, otherwise he wouldn't have put it in the book. Is all that writing mine? Yeah, it absolutely is. Every fucking word is something I wrote. I didn't use ChatGPT. I didn't use AIs to do my stuff. Not a single bit of AI went into that book. Except the cover, I think, which was not done by me. It was done by somebody else who used partially AI to generate the cover. But even that required an artist's touch to do layout and repositioning and stuff of an AI-generated piece. So there's that. Whatever I sell, good or bad, however much it makes, I can at least look on that and say, doesn't matter if it's successful or not. I still put my effort into it, and I put it out there, and I tried. That's all you can do. It's all you can hope for. Could I have done more to promote it, to market it, to make it better? Yeah, I absolutely could have. I could have hammered Grimm's dick and told him, don't use that fucking title. I could have. But I didn't. I let him put the title on it, and we rolled with it. And it made me a little bit of money, and it still makes me a little bit of money. Not a bunch. But it's mine. You could do the same thing if you're a creator. Take the time. Try it. Now, what I'm leading into is my guest that I'm bringing on was also challenged in a similar way back in the day. Because this guy is the guy who got me into creating RPG stuff. Years ago, I found him by accident. I loved what he was doing, and I wanted to be part of it so bad, I was pretty much begging him to give me a shot doing anything. And I got lucky, because he said yes. He let me. And I'm proud of that work. There wasn't a whole lot of work back then, but it was. But again, it's a case of this is a dude who took a shot. He tried. He succeeded. He's still taking shots even now. And he's still being successful. So, we're not going to make millions and millions of dollars in this industry. Anybody who tells you that is lying. I've already said it before. The glory days where you could put out a book and, hit the big time, be set for life, like the lightning in the bottle that Gary Gygax captured, or the lightning in the bottle that Mark Reinhagen captured, or Pathfinder captured, or even Kelsey Dion captured. That doesn't happen very often. You're lucky if you can get it. You're going to have to work hard as hell if you want it. It is possible, but you're going to have to work hard for it. You can't just put out a substandard product and hope people will buy it. Be willing to invest some blood, sweat, and tears. Be willing to listen to criticism. Be willing to do what your audience wants if you want to be successful. And that's not just for role-playing gaming writing. That is for Hollywood. That is for all the showrunners, all the movie makers, all the producers, all of these people who control your entertainment, who produce your entertainment, who create your entertainment. You want to be successful? Listen to your audience. Know what your audience wants. And here's a guy who does get it. It's my friend Ralts. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. How about you? Hey, Ironcross. Wow, that's really standing me up and making me sound good.
Well, yeah. I mean, you deserve it.
Well, it does. You did skip over the fact that, I walked away from everything. I told everybody, here's your final paychecks. Here's the rights to all of your properties back. Here's the rights to everything you wrote back. And then threw the match and walked away. One thing I didn't do is I didn't try to keep anybody's intellectual properties, anything they'd written or drawn or computer generated or anything else. I did give you guys back everything. And then I walked away from it all and I vanished for, God, what, a decade?
Yeah, pretty much.
I vanished for a decade before I popped back up. So, and no, I didn't go back into RPGs. I mean, I thought about it a few times and then I saw the community and went, LOL, no, I'm not going back into that. Which is funny. And I do support I do support some of the modern stuff. I haven't really gotten into anything to replace my collection, which is first edition AD&D, second edition AD&D, third edition. Well, actually, no, I don't have any third edition books anymore. I got rid of them. Pathfinder. Yeah, my third edition books I gave to my daughter. She runs a game. I got Pathfinder 1E. I tried 2E and was like, this is complete trash. I got my Gamma World stuff. I ran a game, and I got my Rifts books. So Rifts, Gamma World, Pathfinder, and first and second edition AD&D. Other than that, I haven't really bought any of the new stuff. I mean, I've got a few. I mean, like the guys that put out the big thick hardbacks of like random encounters, puzzles, dungeons, stuff like that. I grabbed that because that looked fun. I do support other creators, mainly in going, you can do it, just moral support, you can totally do it. I have faith in you. And because it's not easy. A lot of people think it's easy. You just copy and paste the old tables in, and then you write some stuff around it. And it's more difficult than that. I mean, number one, some of the old tables, I'm not going to go after balance because I believe that chasing balance is a fool's game. That chasing balance is for suckers, because you've heard me say this 1,000 times. If you build it, the players will run you over with it.
Oh, you can tune it, but you'll never get it perfect.
Yes, so there's always that guy.
Yeah,
just try to aim down the range and get somewhere near the target. You don't have to hit the bullseye every time.
Yeah. And if somebody comes up and goes, hey, I use this outlandish combination of feats and classes and weapons, and I can dominate everything in the game, you go, okay, that's cool. And I actually had somebody I was doing RPGs, came up with this outrageous combination. It's like, look what I made. I made a complete death machine. I said, okay, that's cool. I'll put him in the I'll put him in the NPC book if you want. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll totally put everything in there. Talk about how he's one of the most feared guys out in the wasteland. The guy was absolutely thrilled. And I published a completely broken NPC. And people thought he was great.
Well, I mean, that's game balance is like, it doesn't matter how hard you try to achieve game balance. It's like somebody is always going to try to metagame. Somebody's always going to try to, power game. It's just, it doesn't matter.
Oh, and I'm a power gamer. I really am. I'm a power gamer. It's funny. On one hand, I'll run a survival game where the players, the first thing they ask when we start the game is, how much food and water do we have left, and how much ammunition do we have left? But at the same time, they've got damn near Hollywood abilities, 80s Hollywood abilities, but it still keeps the thing up because Arnie's still got to eat. Rambo still has to eat. And it's kind of funny because I love power gaming. I think power gaming is fun. I think this whole thing of making yourself in a RPG misses the point. It really doesn't. I mean, do you really want to play yourself? I mean,
No.
I've been playing video games since they came on. Since you either programmed them yourself out of the back of Compute magazine, or you bought them on a cassette.
I remember that because I did that.
And, yeah, but ever since they had where you can design your own character, I've always played females. And I've had people, well, why do you play females? It's like, because I'm a dude, and I think playing in Skyrim, the Naked Avenger. Back when I had my YouTube channel, YouTube was a lot more lenient back then. I ran through all Skyrim, and she never wore any armor. She was completely naked the whole game. Which was funny because I have screenshots where she's like talking to the king and she's completely covered in blood. What I did, my Fallout 4 run, I did Fat Girl with a Minigun. And I had downloaded the physics mod and I'd adjusted the bone structure and I did unique PC. And so here's everybody else scrawny in the wasteland. Here's this big hefty chick with a minigun, and when she fired it, she jiggled. I love that character. I mean, I played the whole game through. You can't do that now.
Well, let's kind of bring it back to like where you got started at, because I mean, obviously, you had Year of the Zombie out before I met you.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
I actually was producing stuff a lot before. I got in on the early beta tests. I actually had to sign a non-disclosure agreement with Wizards of the Coast at one point, and everybody else was playing 2E. The Black Books had been out, and I'm sitting there, and I'm a member of the Realms of Evil and Nutkinland and N-World and other forums way back in the late 1990s. And everybody's talking about 2E, and they're talking about Wizards is doing something, but everybody's wondering what. And I'm sitting here with the design documents and the initial build of 3.0. And I've always had a thing, John, T-shirt, you've heard me say this a ton of times. I'm a prostitute. You pay me and I go away. You don't put my name in it. You don't put me in the credits. You put me in your file cabinet under trusted freelancers. And how I did that was I brokered a security clearance with the military into you can trust me with NDAs. And it worked amazingly. And so I helped a little bit with the final version of 3.0. And that's where I learned that Wizards of the Coast did not give a shit about quality, because we pointed out all kinds of problems. And I even, submitted lists of fixes, like, oh God, I cannot remember the name of the feat, but it's when you can take it first level, it gives you +3 hit points, and that's all it does.
Oh, yeah, that's I think I want to say that's endurance, but
or fortitude.
Fortitude, yeah, and it lets you sleep in your armor too, I think.
Yeah, but I said, you know what? Instead of just +3 hit points for one level, why don't it's +3 hit points per level and +1 hit points for every level after? No, that's too unbalancing. I'm like, no, it's not. And I found out that Monty Cook loved feet traps. Monty Cook was one of these system mastery assholes. Sorry.
Yeah, and
System
no,
mastery people.
it's true. No, and I mean Monty Cook definitely had a hard on for spellcasters. It was pretty obvious.
Oh God, yeah. He did not like the idea of marshals. And there's this old thing. It comes from first edition. A spellcaster has limited spells, but the swordsman can swing his sword all day. And I would say he's limited by his hit points. You're back there throwing spells. He's taking hit point damage. He's trying to keep their side's armored psycho off of your little wizard. No, that doesn't matter. His hit point. Shut the hell up. But so after that, I was one of the. I got a few stuff and poured a hole full of beer back when that was put out. I don't even know if that's still around. When 3.0 came out on the phone, when they released us from the NDA, and we could actually, they were using us to drum up excitement. I was posting monsters I designed from the design documents, and on forums and magic items and stuff like that. And then what was it? The Creature Collection came out, and it came out before they got the rules for monster creation. So Creature Collection 1 is completely busted.
Yes.
And I was one of the Gen Con that they released 3.0 was the same Gen Con that I had somebody selling my first tabletop RPG product, which was back in the day. It was literally one of the first books of spells out there, which led to me releasing, a whole bunch of stuff I released it for marshals. I had a complete book of marshals by 2002 that had all kinds of feat combinations, prestige classes, all kinds of stuff. And I released a second big one. It was, at the time, it was the largest non-equipment book released, because Goodman Games and Green Ronin had released really big books of weapons. And I started releasing these really thick books on prestige core classes, and taking you into prestige classes. And I was really, you've seen how fast I produce stuff.
Yeah, and Mongoose actually was the one who was putting out like book after book after book full of just all kinds of crap back then.
Yeah. And I was doing pretty good. And then I got into arguments with the publisher. The big one was they were funding other people with me and not paying me. I remember saying, hey, it's been 2 years since you paid me. And I know my shit's been #1 several times on RPG Now. Give me my money. Oh, well, we don't have it. We had to reinvest. And I was getting kind of angry, so I quit writing. And the big one was I found out that the person who was mainly I was using for a rep had taken a shit ton of money from White Wolf, and then told me to redo the book for 3.5. And he started getting on me. He goes, look, I owe White Wolf a lot of money because they gave me an advance. I was like, they didn't give you an advance. They gave me an advance. Where's my money? Oh, it was my advance. And that's where I walked away.
It's funny because, it's like we've had Mark Reinhagen on a few times, and he's a great guy. And at one point we had him pretty much unfiltered, and he broke down about how they basically just fucked him out of his own company. Yeah. Because he had weak people in place, and he didn't, gatekeep his company closely enough and get rid of the people who were,
which company was
to get rid of him.
The names are familiar.
That was White Wolf.
White Wolf, yeah.
That was White Wolf, because he's the guy behind Vampire the Masquerade. He was the reason it was so successful but in dethroning second edition.
And you remember the way I was. I focused completely on game design.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care. A book would release, and I wasn't one of these people that jumped around the forums yelling, look at my book. I was already into the second and third book following it. But Year of the Zombie came about because Die 20 Modern was coming out. And I had the pre-release. I was actually, help work on it. And I had the pre-release, and I was allowed to talk about it. Everybody's like, well, I don't know what kind of game I'm doing. I'm like, look, a brain damaged monkey could come up with scenarios for Modern. Modern is so easy. I mean, look at all the films, look at everything. And like, well, if it's so easy, why don't you do it? And I was drunk as fuck. And I was like, fine, what do you want me to do? You know? And one person in the IRC chat room was, what are you watching on TV? And I said, I'm watching the 1980s Dawn of the Day of the Dead. And they're like, because this was before the zombie thing had really kicked off.
That's right.
And I was like, and they were, why don't you make a zombie conversion for it? And put up or shut up. And I was like, okay. And what was it? 3 months later, I had a 450-page core rule book. I mean, the hard part was the hard part was getting the artwork, and I left that, and it got snatched up by a company like instantly. I was a hot name, and people either loved me or hated me because I had a really bad reputation. It might have been because at one of the cons in Seattle, I glassed somebody with a fucking bottle because they grabbed my wife's tit and I glassed them in the face with a bottle. I got you knew me back then. I was 210 pounds and made of steel, and I bodied that guy in the I bodied that one dude at the convention because he was creeping on like 13 and 14-year-old girls. Ooh. And I got him in between I shoved him in between the vending machines and just took it to him because he tried to follow him in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And that's when he was like, I know people who run this convention. I'm like, that's not going to save you from what's about to happen. And I got banned from the convention, of course. And I didn't care because, when they released, when they were like, oh, well, we banned him because he physically assaulted one of our board members. And somebody said, why? And I said, oh, he tried to follow 3 13-year-old girls into the bathroom. And everybody knew that was me. That was the kind of person I was. And I'm not that person anymore. I don't drink anymore. So, but, you remember, everybody knew that was me. What was it that one person said? I think it was the guy who ran Realms. The guy who ran Realms of Evil's sister said, "I know him. He'd do nothing else." And they're like, "Well, what if your wife knows?" Like, my wife knew what I was doing because she was blocking the guy from getting into the bathroom. But anyway, this actually started showing me that we had a lot of scumbags in the hobby. I mean,
still do,
and they were all like ingratiated into the boards and companies and the people who decide what we should do. And You're the Zombie was, I put out so much for that. I put out 75 issues of actually I wrote 75 issues of Survivor's Guide to Risen America. I eventually covered every state, including Alaska and Hawaii. I did Survivor's Guide to Mexico, the Survivor's Guide to Risen Mexico, which never saw the light of day. 3 books for the Survivor's Guide to Risen Canada. I did the Survivor's Guide to the Undead UK, the Survivor's Guide to Risen Europe. I did Slavers 1, 2, and 3. I did Traitors 1, 2, and 3. I did 4 books of NPCs that the players could run into. I collaborated with a bunch of other people. I did Vosburg Super Fortress, which was a supermax prison turned into a fortress. I did I can't remember who it was, but they had produced a bunch of military stuff for Modern Die 20, and he let me convert it over to basically cross it to You're the Zombie. And there was 2 stat blocks. One was without his stuff. One was with his stuff. So the person who buys it, they get 2 copies. I did the I can't remember the name of it now, but I did a module series that was 10 modules, 11 if you count the prelude, and each of them was over 100 pages thick. And it took the players from before the Rising all the way to year 3. And it had play for 18 to, the final one was 18 to 20th level. 18
and
to 20. What?
You let me toot my horn for a sec. I was actually really happy with the Survivor's Guide to Risen America because I remember when you were originally pitching the idea to me, you were like, "Yeah, I'm going to make this this Australian SAS paratrooper guy and all that." And I said,
"Yep,
no, don't." I said, well, what about like an American cowboy type dude?
And he had emphysema and cancer, so the zombies ignored him.
Mm-hmm. And that ended up being like the coolest character because I you know,
Marion, did a lot of artwork for him. Marion,
I love that character.
It was a thing, and then I found out that once again, you weren't getting paid. The other artists weren't getting paid. I wasn't getting paid. And then I found out that actually it was, between everything, it was making a bunch of money. And I told them, you'll remove all my products from the digital store. You'll remove all my products referenced from your online store and your online presence, and all the rights revert back to me. And they were like, no, they don't. I said, you need to look in the section 13 of the OGL license in the back of the books. You're an imprint. You don't own the IP. And once again, I got a hold of you and every other artist and everybody who'd written anything for Survivor's Guide to Risen America, which was, hey, send me your pitch and I'll let you put an article in. And I released all the IP, and I lit it on fire, and I walked away because, holy crap, I was furious. You were getting ripped off. They were taking your artwork and putting them into calendars and huge art packs that people could buy, and you weren't seeing a dime from it.
No, I wasn't. I kept wondering how come that shit wasn't selling. I just thought I was doing a bad job.
I was livid on your behalf. It was so popular that people cosplayed as Becca or Sylvia or Sam at conventions. But I never went to conventions because I'd been banned from a couple of them. I had a drinking problem back then and a temper problem. And I could back it up. But God, I wrote all that, and I did stuff like I sawed a deer carcass with a chainsaw, just to see, how effective chainsaws were against flesh. They're not.
They're not. They get caught.
If you use the very tip of the blade, you can saw through flesh, but if you hit it with the main part of the blade, it pulls the flesh and gristle back into the housing and jams the motor. But yeah, I did all kinds of wild stuff. I bought a car for like $200 because the engine was blown out, and I had my kids and a few friends see how long it would take them with just bare hands, without a rock or any tools, to break the windows and smash the car up. So here you've got a bunch of little kids jumping up and down on the roof of the car and jumping up and down on the hood and trying to get into the trunk, and to see just how easy it would be for zombies to get into a modern car without tools. The answer was not very easy. The cops had a cop car that was completely, the engine, it blew its engine, it blew its transmission, and they let me do the same thing with a cop car. They thought it was funnier than hell watching my kids jump up and down on playing zombies, trying to get in it. And all of that appeared in the books. I think there was a photo in one of the books. There was a photo of my daughter with her legs stuck through the windshield with a big smile, dressed as a zombie. That was kind of funny. And yeah, I up and walked away from tabletop. I up and walked away from the publishing world. I made sure I used my money. That last paycheck you got, that was like a couple $100, that was my money.
I remember. Yeah.
I paid off. I took what I had and I paid off everybody what I could. I mean, I was broke. I was on food stamps at the time, and I paid everybody off, and I walked away. And yeah, that was the end of my tabletop gaming. As I walked away from it, after designing tons of stuff. I counted it up one time. I designed 250 monsters that fit into various ecologies, including, I created monsters with CR levels of 20 plus. I wrote an epic level handbook. I released it and got a request from Wizards of the Coast to pull it down. And a year later, their epic level handbook came out. We should have stuck with mine. Their epic level handbook was piss poor.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, I had designed, because they had, you mix and match to build your spells at this level, and I had, you gain automatic feat. You gain automatic feat slots, and your spell pyramid keeps widening.
Yeah, and the mixing and matching of spells was just stupid. And I don't remember. We played a few epic level games, and I don't remember any of the spellcasters in our game actually using that system. They just preferred to keep filling their spell books with more 9th level spells.
I play tested my epic level 1, and because your spell pyramid widened, and then to the side you had a meta magic. You could infuse your spells with meta magic, making them more and more and more powerful. There was advanced meta magic feats, and I mean the people playing the spellcasters loved it. And for epic levels, fighters gained magic resistance. And then there was the super heavy armor designs, and there was the grab the blade. A fighter could grab a normal blade and shake it, and the whole thing would turn into a magic weapon. And playtesters loved this stuff. There was the playtester who was playing the rogue loved the fact that they could get a running start, jump up, grab a moonbeam, and use it like parallel bars at the Olympics to climb up jump from moonbeam to moonbeam like they're in the parallel bars. People love this stuff, and I released that book, and people were like, "This is the greatest epic thing ever." This makes high level play feasible. And then I got a notice from Wizards of the Coast saying, "Hey, we need you to take that down because we're going to be releasing the epic level handbook." And that thing was complete trash, and I should have left mine up. And I told him, "Hey, you can, if you want to, we can do a deal for this for my epic level handbook." And like, "No, ours has been in design for 2 years, and it was complete garbage."
Of course, it was
absolute garbage.
Oh man, it's like I remember in during 3.5, it's like I went out and bought I guess it was like the Dragon book, where you could it had all the rules for playing kobolds because I love kobolds.
Oh yeah, kobolds are great.
Kobolds are the best, and there was a spell in there that was called Power Word Pain, 1st level spell, and it was so broken, but it was it was official Wizards of the Coast material, and my thought when I bought the book was like, well, this is Wizards of the Coast. This has to have all been tested and vetted, and it should be okay to play. And the first time I played it during our regular game sessions, my GM freaked out, man. I mean, he just absolutely was like, "What the hell is this spell?" And I said, "Well, it's right here in this book. This is an official Wizards of the Coast publication. Is there something wrong with it?" I mean, obviously they checked it out and vetted it. It must be okay. And everybody at the table pretty much just said, "No, you can't use that."
That was when we found out that Wizards of the Coast was using play testers to advertise. They weren't actually listening to what we were saying. The guy was named Hildolf, and I had gotten permission to bring him in on the Die 20 Die 20 Future playtests. And he went through and he found every single error in the book. And it was like a list of, I think it was almost 2,000 errors. Everything from putting the wrong name on the wrong picture to, and some of the things said picture forthcoming. And, but I got it. And he, spelling errors, mathematical errors, errors and errors. Me and him found all the errors in the mechanics, and we found problematic feat combinations. We submitted to the Wizards of the Coast. When Die 20 Future came out, every single error he had found was still in there. And people were like, "Oh, you must have submitted it too late," and it went to the print, and it went to the printer. We submitted it before they had all the artwork, before they even did layout. So we submitted it way in time, and Wizards of the Coast ignored it. Wizards of the Coast also, if you play tested anything above 10th level, they didn't listen to you.
Guys, what are you talking about? Wizards of the Coast can do no wrong.
They actually, if you turned in your stuff, I used to record. I used to actually record on audio cassette I was playing, and I would turn in the characters and everything else, and writing down the monsters in the dungeon I did, and we were doing 10th level and above play because that's what I'm used to, and I found out later that they never paid any attention to anything above 10th level. That's why everything above 10th level is completely broken.
And I'll say something else too, is we should have realized way back then that they weren't playtesting their crap properly when it only took like a couple of years for them to put out 3.5. And not only that, but they released D20 Modern at the same time as they put out as they put out 3.0. And I remember going through D20 Modern thinking, "Man, this is a much better system than 3.0.
Yes.
How come we didn't use this instead?"
And the other thing was 3.5, I saw so many of the things I had recommended, but what got me was in the 3.5 Player's Handbook, because we had this crowd that was such a bunch of nitpicky weirdos. They had to define what a door was. Seriously, get a 3.5 Dungeon Master's Guide, and it has the definition of what a door is. Because it was certain people on the forums that Wizards of the Coast paid attention to that did nothing but nitpick things. They were literally the type of person that went, it depends on what your definition of is.
Yeah,
like,
I remember that was the biggest thing that kind of used to aggravate me. Still aggravates me about 3.5 or 3.0 is the fact that the rules are so heavy and so crunchy. Initially I thought that was a great thing, but the more we played it, the more I saw how much it was actually inhibiting play.
Yes.
Because you couldn't do anything because the action economy was so limited. And the other part of it that told me how messed up that system was is the fact that they kept bringing out books of feats to defeat the rules. Yes. And I'm kind of like, if all you're doing is building crap to break the rules, obviously the rules are broken to begin with, or they don't work in some way, or people feel inhibited by the rules to begin with. So
what got me was when they released, I don't remember which book it was, but it was mainly for martial characters, paladins, rangers, fighters. And 2/3 of the book was spells for arcane casters. 2/3 of the book was spells. And that had nothing to do with warriors. They didn't buff warriors. They didn't help warriors. It was complete. And I was like, why are you releasing? And I remember it was one of the last times I talked to my contact in Wizards. I was like, why did you pump up the book full of spells when me and the other guys the freelancers that you contracted under the table, gave you all kinds of options? And I remember what he said. Well, we don't want to put anime crap in our books. And I'm like, you're the guy who thinks that you can't march 10 miles and dig fortifications. And so that was the last time we talked, because I got really mad because every single book Wizards of the Coast put out, anywhere from 1/4 to 2/3 of it was nothing but spells and feats, and never for rogues or bards or fighters. It was always for magic users. And the game eventually become the floating rainbow farting lightning coughing wizard and those other assholes that follow in.
Yeah.
And it was terrible.
I just remember thinking that, well, you're the one who introduced me to Pathfinder First Edition.
Yeah.
I don't know when you found it, but I found it later than you did, because you were the one who was saying, "Nah, you need to pick this up and check it out." And
I did. Involved in Pathfinder all the way back to the point where they were still deciding. Initially, with Pathfinder, there was more abilities the characters got as they rose in levels, and the 20th level ability for a wizard was the ability to cast a wish spell once a year, free of cost. That's when I got involved. I got involved when the feat chains were still a mess. There was another guy, Michael Chapin. He worked very hard on it and is uncredited because he did the same as I do. You give me my money. Yep, you give me my money, and I go the fuck away. That was, to me, that was that made me the perfect freelancer. You bring me in under the table. You say, "Hey, can you fix this? Can you come up with this?" You give me my money, or I'm done with the contract, and I go away, and you never hear from me again. And all I ask is that there's a file in the personnel section that says this guy can be trusted with freelancer work. I always turn my work in either on time, but 90% of the time I turned it in early. I was never late on a deadline. And it infuriated me how many people were dancing around that, "Oh, I worked on this project," and I knew the reason that book got delayed was because those people couldn't meet a deadline if you put them in a car and drove them to it. Hey, Snortopus. But yeah, it was just a nightmare, and it completely soured me on tabletop game design, to the point that I quit running D&D, and I ran Pathfinder, but for the most part, I was playing Shadowrun and I was running Rifts. And I mean, I got big into Rifts again. But I refused to do any design because I was done. The community had turned toxic. The most toxic people in the design community were taking over. Um, there was, quite a few scandals back then. And not stuff like me where, I'd hit on somebody and they'd be like, oh, I'm not, I'd hit on somebody playfully and they're like, oh, I'm not interested. I'd be like, okay. Or I'd hit on them playfully and they'd be like, oh, I like that. I'd be like, oh, I'm playing around. I'm married. And they're like, oh, okay. Ha ha ha. It was, real honest to God sex pests. And it never failed that the person that got outed as a sex pest was on every forum championing themselves against, well, don't even look at a woman. And it's the sheer hypocrisy we had. And the fact that Game Awards, the award shows were more about who you knew than the quality of your work. I was never impressed with the Ennies because I was there when they started. And I knew the people who were involved in making them, and I lost all respect for those people. And yeah, it was different. It was a different time though. You could literally produce a die 20 product called Bikini Babes and Chainmail, throw it up on RPG Now, and make money. I had a reviewer say this product is nothing more than a DM can come up with 15 minutes, a stack of B movies, and a bottle of whiskey. And I put that review on the back of the book and in the blurb to sell the book. And I touted it as, when you don't have 15 minutes, are the Paladins players going to reenact the lightsaber scene from Return of the Jedi and break your coffee table and make your wife mad again? Because face it, as a DM, sometimes you don't have 15 minutes. And it was just a book of encounters. It was a book of encounters, real quick, bam, there it is. And, 20, and what was it? It was $5. And it was like 20 encounters. That's 25 cents a piece. That's a pack of smokes. And that'll keep the coffee table from getting broken. And my God, did those sell. And the guy that had wrote that review, being all nasty and gave me 1 star, demanded that I take the review off. And RPG Now went, actually, your review is property of RPG Now that you put it up. And we gave him permission to put it there. And he is still salty over that shit. No, fuck that guy.
Caster, you've been pretty quiet. You have some questions for Ralts?
Sorry, I'm just kind of coming. I'm kind of coming into this a bit unprepared. I guess. I mean, obviously, it seems like the obvious questions were kind of. It seems like there's a lot of history there. It's kind of interesting for me because this is sort of, that's an era where I was really starting to get into role playing games. So it's kind of at a beginning for me, and.
I encourage bringing new people in like you. I mean, that was Tabletop saw me too. I made a big deal out of bringing people like you who were just starting into the game and encouraging you. And someone like you would be like, "Hey, I'm just getting into the game. I want to play Bruce Lee. What can I do?" Mm-hmm. And I'd try to help and be like, "Hey, is your DM on here? I can give him a few ideas, and you can be Bruce Lee fighting lizard men in the jungles."
Well, we know how much Ironcaster loves monks.
Hey. If you have an appropriate setting for them, my opposition is make them a core class in the core rulebook in what is typically pushed as a generic fantasy, like Tolkien-esque world. If you want to do Oriental adventures, let's roll monks all day.
I don't know. I did it with I did monks. They were members of the martial order, and they protected without weapons. They would protect the monasteries and the libraries. You raise a little bit of hell in the library of the church, and here's a high level monk ready to karate chop you into the ground. But it's making it fit, and I can see where you had a problem with it because it doesn't fit. And the monk was included because of David Carradine and Bruce Lee were really popular at the time.
Exactly. They were always kind of trying to put a square peg in a round hole for me. And that's why it never quite worked for me. They have their place. They work. But all right. So in kind of coming back to the role-playing, the RPG scene, what's your current lay of the land? Like, how do you think the industry has changed? Like, for the better or the worse?
I don't know. I have a surface level view of it now. I'm not wading in. I'm not swimming in it. The toxicity is just out in the open. You can't tell who's just playing a character, and who's actually like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched the recent big things. I've noticed that the loudest voices about things are people we should have kept out of the hobby in the first place. The lay of the land is Wizards of the Coast's catering to the people that came in due to Big Bang Theory and Stranger Things, and telling the people who supported them all these years with millions of dollars and tons of support, telling those people, this game isn't for you anymore, go screw yourself, is just exactly where I knew things were going to go. And I'm not, the tabletop publishing, I won't get involved in it. I don't know how it is. I'm glad to see people are having success, and I support them. I really liked, Monks' Combat Friars, like Robin Hood's buddy, Friar Tuck. Yeah. But I won't get involved in it. I think there's a lot of toxic people and that are hiding under the guise of characters and hiding under the guise of, I'm just trying to make sure that we get along. Something awful they would talk about, we don't need that in our game on something awful. It's like, well, it's not your game. If I'm writing it, if it's my table, it's not your game. And I'm sick about this. We don't need this kind of stuff in our hobby. Well, look, you Johnny come lately. It's not your hobby. It's just as much my hobby as yours. And I've been here longer. You don't get to come in and piss on my floor and tell me that I can't play this way because of your hobby. No. And I'm not going to wade back in, because ultimately I am one of those people, and you can ask T-shirt, I am not one of those people that bend the knee.
No, you're not.
I will burn everything down before I bend the knee. So I won't get involved in a lot of the new stuff, because what I do see is the spats on Twitter. I don't go to the forums anymore because I can't stand them. The spats on Twitter, the spats on YouTube, the recent stuff over Braunstein. I disagree with this. I disagree with a lot of the pictures. You've heard me last week. I disagree with a lot of the art for 5X. I don't like it. D and done, 80 and done. I don't like the artwork direction. I don't like the Daddy Warpig coined it as the tweeification of D&D.
Yes.
I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the tweeification.
And Mercurius Olicus gives us Australian $2 as a small gratuity. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. And
thank you. That'll buy him a beer.
Yeah, well, your reward.
Huh. Good to be seeing eye to eye again. Thanks, V. Truly.
But no, I won't get back into it. And as far as where it stands, I don't know the players. I only see them on Twitter and a little bit.
All right. Well, so, I'd say there's a slight difference there between, getting into it in a professional standpoint of trying to create and, publish. And then there's the sitting down at the table and playing for yourself.
You want to know where I'm at the table?
Yeah. Are you willing to come back to?
No, I've never walked away from the playing table.
Okay.
I'm running an AD&D 1E game. We've done Keep on the Borderlands and Slave Pits of the Undercity, and they're almost done with Secret of the Slavers Stockade. And they know after the Slavers comes the Desert of Desolation, and then after that the main show, which is Against the Giants, Descent to the Depths of the Earth, Queen of the Demon Lead Pits. And I'm telling you, the group is hyped and loves it. And they went from Pathfinder, where it takes all day to finish a fight in Pathfinder, to the utter brutal lethality of 1E, where a 5th level character throwing off a fireball from a scroll destroys the entire room. So yeah, I never walked away from the table. I walked away from public design and industrial slash publication. I walked away from publication design. I still design stuff for myself, but I don't publish it. I don't post it. Nothing.
All right. So since my mind's kind of on a lot of the more modern stuff, are there any more recent books or systems you play or look at? Because I mean, yeah, I because hey, the industry never did quit publishing, and maybe there's
Right.
something out there for you.
Rifts.
Really?
Pathfinder 1E doesn't count. Rifts. Oh god, the Rifts game I ran, and actually Chaos Earth, which is the coming of the Rifts. The players loved Chaos Earth, and that was literally the game with how much gas do we have left at the beginning of every session? How much fuel do we have left? How much food do we have left? What is the general health of our convoy? And how much further till, because they were taking the back highways. There's 3 feet of snow. They got snow plows. They got guards. They're running a convoy. We played Rifts. Rifts is still Palladium is still putting out books, by the way, and the quality has gotten better. But that's about the only modern game I play. But I do buy stuff. Like I've got the, I just got the, what is the name of that? I got the softback. I meant to buy the hardback. Proactive role play. It's for narrating 5e. I didn't buy it because I felt I needed it, but I bought it because I want to see other people's opinions and what other people consider proactive. And it never fails. I buy a book like this, and inevitably there's 1 or 2 paragraphs or maybe a page or 2 that really, to me, pays for the whole thing. The big book of dragons they did, they have a dragon mummy in it, and to me that was awesome. And awesome. I plan on converting that to Pathfinder for the Pathfinder game. But yeah, I mean, I play Rifts. I don't play 5e. I quit supporting Wizards when during the 4e advertising campaign, they said that the game wasn't for you anymore. The game's no longer in your daddy's basement. They were extremely insulting to 3.0 players and 3.5 players. And the worst part is that's when the edition wars really fired up. The people who were supporting 4E before its publication were the nastiest people. Yes, I did play GURPS a long time ago. Yeah, the 4th edition warriors were some of the nastiest people toward everybody, and it disappointed me how many people were respectable names in the hobby and respectable names in design that turned into absolute dickheads about 4E. Yes. And to me, 4E was chess with MMO rules. And when 5E came out, I got an invitation to be part of the design team. And they sent me the initial stuff, and I heard that Pundit was going to be part of it. And I was like, oh, but
well, you had a problem with Pundit back then?
Yes.
Oh,
I remember when he made his own board because he flounced off from it wasn't Circus Maximus, it was the one prior to that. But basically, he flounced off because nobody would give him the credit he felt he was due, so he flounced off and made his own board.
He made 5th edition, so
yeah. But I looked at it and I did one. I sent, because you could do it online, you could do it via email, and I didn't really do mine on the forums because I didn't like the majority of the names. I knew quite a few of the people, and I didn't have high opinions of them. And I was like, I might get back. At the time, I was like, I might get back into tabletop design. I had written Year of the Zombie Reloaded, which is still on my hard drive, which I folded the Die 20 Modern book into the Year of the Zombie book. So it was now standalone. I had redesigned the feat chains, redesigned the character classes, everything. And I was like, I was hyped to help with 5.0.
You're going to send me that, right? You're going to send me that? Because
I'll find it someday. It's somewhere. But, and what happened is I noticed they weren't actually paying attention. They already had the way 5.0 was going to go in their minds, and any dissent from that, they didn't want to hear it. Any critique of their design ideas weren't going to be listened to. So I just told them, hey, I'm bowing out. I sent the person, I'm bowing out. I'm done. So I don't even know how I got on this, but that's why I didn't really get into modern tabletop, because I didn't like the direction it was going. I liked how Palladium was going. I didn't like how once they made the net wireless, the Matrix wireless in Shadowrun, I just dropped back to 2nd edition. Go, I've got my stuff. Go screw yourself. They tweetified that. Yeah, I just went back to 3.5 and 2nd edition. So yeah, when it comes to modern games, I really don't I support them sometimes. I'll see like a Kickstarter that looks good, and I'll look at those people, and I'll I'll support them sometimes.
You know,
And,
what surprises me though is that you went to Chaos Earth. I'm really, really shocked that you didn't, keep doing Darwin's World, because that's such a damn good game.
I lost my books when I moved.
Oh,
I
you can
lost
still
my
buy
books.
them. RPG Objects is still around.
I know RPG Object is still now. So's Chuck. Chuck was great.
Chuck was great.
Actually,
So,
congratulated me a year ago.
We're talking about
So-
Chuck Rice.
So his T-shirt broke down and told you the good word of
Ashes
Kevin
Without
Crawford?
Number.
Of what?
Ashes Without
As-
Number.
No.
I was saying, has pundit giving you the pulpit speech of like, have you heard the good word of Kevin Crawford?
No. I don't even follow him on Twitter. He pops up, and I just scroll right by him. I don't care.
It's
No, I mean-
funny. It's funny
has
because
T-shirt giving you the spiel.
No.
okay,
Yeah.
well, let me, Ironcaster. Yeah, it's kind of funny because Crawford is like the one guy that even pundit will not say anything bad about. And actually, most of the RPG community out there I've seen has nothing bad to say about Crawford. And I guess part of the secret of his success is the fact that he really doesn't do social media at all. I tried to interview him on the show once, and he politely declined just because he just said, I don't do all this media stuff. He just, sits quietly up in his, house, writes all his stuff out, releases a Kickstarter, and everybody buys his stuff, and we love it. And, he just goes on to thinking deep thoughts, I guess, because I love everything he's done. I own every single book that he's ever made. That's how much I like his stuff. And I can't say this about a lot of RPG authors, but not only do I buy all of it, but I use it. So
My problem is I always lived an inch outside of my skin. So I wasn't one of those people that could keep my mouth shut. I'd argue with anybody. I'd support anybody. I don't know how many people. I mean, this T-shirt has heard me tell people don't give up. And remember back in the day, I used to actually help people with their mechanics and then tell them, don't credit me, nothing. Here's what was wrong with your mechanics. Now go forth and publish, young man, young woman.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean,
And speaking
considering he's up in like probably Traverse City somewhere, he's probably slowly getting ready for hunting season in like a week or two.
I
Well,
miss being able to hunt.
He's still got Ashes Without Number coming out in October or September, so he's not going to be doing a whole lot of that yet. But
You can
That's-
like Upper Michigan. That's basically you basically have two seasons: summer and hunting.
It's
Well-
summer and hunting.
well, I still remember it's like kind of on the tail end of the whole year, the zombie fiasco. We got, or you, I should say, you got involved with Davarana Publishing,
Yes.
and
for a while.
I got kind of pulled in because I did some covers and stuff for some of their artists or for some of their books, and I never saw one goddamn dime from any of it at
Neither
all.
did I.
So that was
Neither did I, because that was a mistake. But that was a mistake.
yeah. I don't blame you for that. Obviously, we know exactly who that blame for that lands on.
And despite everything I did and the fact she brought me in to be a writer, they never published one of my books.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, they never published anything.
What the?
They
I didn't
published a
know
lot
that.
of other people. Yeah, they published
Yeah,
a lot of other people.
yeah. Like Stephen Beho got published and
Uh-huh.
with some of my covers. But damn.
Yeah, they're always
Wow.
like, "Oh, almost," and no, almost never came. If for any would-be writers out there, I have some advice. Number one, don't quit your day job. Number two,
Yeah.
you're not getting off food stamps anytime soon. Number three, the third time they tell you soon, cut your losses and walk away. Because soon, tomorrow never comes.
No.
To quote VC Andrews, tomorrow never comes, and they're just going to keep fucking you.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other part of that though is also don't stop. Because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you had just given it all up again and then just said, fuck this, you wouldn't be where you are now with Behold Humanity.
Well, actually, the weird thing is, I did.
Oh.
I did walk away from it again. Behold, humanity is lightning in a bottle that will never happen again because of the circumstances. I mean, if you want to get into that, we can get into that. I mean, but I mean, Ironcaster might have more questions or want to ask or want to say more things.
Sure.
And then there was
No,
silence.
I'm sorry. No, I don't really have much else.
Well, I kind of covered everything.
Yeah, you're pretty good about that. You're, which is good.
Well, Keisha, would you mind let me know if I start roboting bad?
Yeah.
So, Behold Humanity is my current project, and the circumstances are absolutely crazy behind it. So, you remember the story Pathak eats an ice cream cone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I wrote this. I was at Desert Storm, and I was sitting next to a generator, and the generator had a bad bearing, so we're watching it to make sure it doesn't catch on fire. And I had an MRE box. And I wrote Pathak, the rough draft of Pathak eats an ice cream cone on the box just to amuse myself, and left it there. And that later that afternoon, my lieutenant came up and said, "Hey, is this yours?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Hey, it's pretty cool. You should keep it." And so I folded it up, and I put tape on it, and I sent it to my sister. And if some time went by, and it was the mid-90s, and she was clearing out her house. She was moving. She's like, "Hey, I found this old story you wrote on an MRE box and mailed me." And back then, mail was free. Mail's free when you're in the combat zone, so it was stupid. And I wrote it down on a computer. I posted it on like Realms of Evil once, just for everybody to read and laugh at. And then it sat on my hard drive forever. For a long time, the story sits on my hard drive. Decades go by, and then the vid happens. The Wu flu hits us, and despite what they're claiming, that no lockdowns ever happened anywhere. We all remember the lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
We all remember nobody could go anywhere. People, only essential workers, basically the servant caste, could go to work. And I was on Reddit, and I wasn't really on Reddit. I had an account there. I used like 3 times, and that's what really got people later. But somebody said, "Hey, why don't you read /HFY? It's Humanity." Fuck yeah. You might like some of the stories. I've always liked Mankind Ascendant stories. I hated the 80s and 90s Mankind are the Real Monster stories. I thought they were all garbage.
I do remember you got me into John Ringo, and I remember hating that book so much because that series pissed me off like
the
nothing.
Polscene series? I'm not the one that got you into the Polscene series. I hated John Ringo's Polscene series. I didn't get past the first book. I didn't get past the first book because, oh my god! But I got you. I got you into Hammer. I got you into David Drake.
Yeah,
you were complaining about the Polscene series. I got you into David Drake.
David Drake, Hammer Slammers. Yeah.
Yes.
Good shit.
And ever noticed that there wasn't very many people putting out stuff, and there was a lot of comments with, "This is the 3rd time I've read this. I need something to read because." I'm locked in. So I put up, at the time I had this really shitty job, and it was basically security. That's about all I can say about it. Gotcha. It was security with a truck and underarms, and I had a lot of free time, which is check the cameras. And my boss said, "Yeah, you can. I'll make an exemption on the router for you, so you can log into /HFY, but that's the only place you can log into." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And so they opened a port for me to be able to do this because the IT guy was really nice about it. And I posted Pathak, and there was a writing challenge about write something about elves, and I wrote Born Whole, which now here's the thing: I write seat of the pants. I don't do planning. I never do. And
what? You're not George R.R. Martin with his super duper complicated family trees and histories and shit that takes 400 years to write?
No, I'm not. And I will talk mad shit about him. But I started writing, and I started posting like 2 or 3 times a day. And at first, all of the chapters looked like they were incoherent, barely touching each other. And eventually, they collapsed together. Now, during this time, I got hit by lightning. And that's when the volume of writing picked up, and that's when the fugue state started, where I would write in a fugue state and come out of it, and I'm staring at the post on Reddit and have no memory of writing any of this. And what I ended up writing, and people were like, oh my God, it's the whole, this is the whole reason for me to get up in the morning, is to get up and read 2 or 3 chapters of this and then relax and wait till tomorrow. And people were like DMing me and telling me, this thing is getting me through everything. This thing is getting me through it. And at first, I didn't have if you look in the first 100 or something chapters, I don't have a Patreon. I don't have a PayPal. I don't have a Kickstarter. I don't have anything out there. I wasn't one of these people that released 10 or 20 chapters and got real popular and then deleted all my stuff and put it up for sale on Amazon. I was just writing. The whole reason I opened a PayPal is other people were opening them and taking the donations. The whole reason I started a Patreon is because people were putting up fake Patreons in my name. So I did it just to keep other people from, profiting. I put up the books on Amazon because people were taking the posts and putting them in a book and putting them in a Kindle reader and uploading it to Amazon to sell. I fell into this ass backwards. And over the course of the last 4 years, I've written 4 million words. Behold Humanity clocks in at 1,000 chapters. And the funny thing was, is as a joke at like chapter 300, I said, hey, you want me to spoil the end? And everybody's like, yeah, spoil the end. And I'm like, here is the end. And it says dash, 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 nothing follows, dash, dash, dash. And everybody was like, that is the perfect end. And I love my fans. I had great fans. What?
And yep. For Australian $2 from Mercury says, what, literally hit by lightning? And let me just throw this out. So yeah, you want to explain that one real quick?
Okay. So I'm sitting in my house, and it's a nice summer's day, and there's a thunderstorm going on, and all of a sudden I taste blue, and I see this color. I have no name for this color, and my ears are ringing. Right, my vision comes back, and I'm blinking, and I still taste blue. I don't know how to explain it. What tastes like blue? My monitor is completely dead. There's a streak in the big screen TV. The windows are cracked on the opposite side of me. And my daughter yells, Mom, Dad got hit by lightning. So, the ambulance comes. I'm like, I don't need to go to the fucking hospital. I'm fine. And then I got blisters above where my metal implants are. And, but I was fine. And then, last year on Memorial Day, we're doing a stream. And we're playing Fallout 76. We're doing a stream, and I take the dogs out. And I walk into the side yard, and I'm talking, just like I am now. And it's raining, and I'm smoking a cigarette, and I'm jabbering. And then all of a sudden, anybody that's listening to the stream hears this static. And then the static ends. You can hear, yike, 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 yike. And then they hear me go, ow. And it was like, what happened? And my friend, Undead Ramen, goes, I'm telling your wife you got hit by lightning. Now I want to tell you, the Logitech headset, it still worked.
God. Good, there you go.
That one took it out of me. That one made it so I have difficulty walking now. But the lightning hit like 10 feet from me. And it was like fun.
Jeez. Yeah, for people who don't know, it's like Ralts has metal implants. Like he's got like a shoulder replacement and other stuff.
Not a full replacement. Just
he's more machine than man.
Yeah. I got implants. I got bone fixators, stuff like that. I got wrecked up pretty good over the course of my life. Actually, it was I was writing tabletop stuff for 3.0 when I got my chest crushed in an industrial accident.
Ooh.
Ambulances were the one ambulance at the hospital was at a wreck, and they were loading up people, and so my boss's wife had to drive me in, and at one point I had her pull over so I could throw up blood. Ooh. That was a fun ride.
Yeah.
She's like, stay conscious, stay with me. I'm like, I'm okay. She's like, stay with me, keep talking to me.
For some reason, John says, did it fry the hair off of you? How are your shoes after that?
I wore combat boots, and that's the rubber soles is probably what saved me. because lightning follows the path of least resistance. So my pant legs were wet. It was raining. It hit on the ground. So I just took the side effect. So it wasn't that bad. He says when he has difficulty walking along farther than 100 feet, which is ironic. You know this t-shirt. It's ironic that I have difficulty walking more than 100 feet when I used to go running for 10 miles on the beach every day.
Yeah. I mean, back in your military days, you were like a specimen.
Well, when you knew me when I was doing You're the Zombie, how many times did you hear me on a voice chat or IRC where I had just gotten back from running 10 miles with a ruck?
Well, I mean, I remember that was one of your complaints about how NBC had been going after. It's like, you know, how you were bitching about some guy who couldn't do the suit up test.
Yeah, and he was on CNN talking mad shit. Then he failed the suit up test. And I gave him a failing grade. I called the CNN and said that he failed the suit up test, and he got a failing grade, and he never passed NBC school. And when they came back from commercial, the guy was gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just explain what the suit up test is so people know, because people may not know what NBC is.
NBC is the old term, nuclear, biological, chemical. Now it's a CBRN, chemical, biological, radiation, nuclear. The suit up test is you get in your full protective gear, and they put live nerve agent on a vehicle. That's part of the test. And you have to decon the vehicle and get in it and drive it. You have to be good enough at this and confident enough that when you're done with the decon, you unsuit next to the vehicle. If you screw up, you're going to the hospital. And this guy refused to do the suit up test. There are people that get that far and then refuse to do it any further. So, yeah, I mean, there's other tests. I don't know if they still do them. But yeah, it was back in the day when everything was dangerous, you know.
Yeah.
Back when they did not care about you.
Yeah. Now I guess now it's everything is permitted. I mean, you know, I guess I mean, let's be serious. Some of the people in the Army these days wouldn't fit in the mop suit.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk shit because I remember the boomers talking shit about my generation.
Mm.
And I won't talk shit about the modern generation because I don't know what it's like. I'm not actually in.
Yeah,
so
fair.
I refuse to be like the boomers who told us that we couldn't accomplish anything and we were weak and we were pathetic. And I loved it because after 1990, they would say that and I'd say, yeah, well, we won our war. How'd that nom go for you?
Oh yeah.
Bravo, sir.
And, you know, that's like, you know, and I will say I have had people from the global war on terror say, oh, you Cold War guys, you know, it's like, how'd Afghanistan go for you, champ? How'd Iraq go? That's right. Your leadership, not you personally, but your leadership was complete garbage. And you let Darth Cheney have Halliburton own Iraq. So you didn't fight in a war. You just did security for Halliburton.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me when you have tanks facing tanks. You can sit over at the table with the Vietnam guys. Thanks anyway.
Oh.
And you know, I wouldn't say that stuff normally. I don't say that stuff normally, but I will say it when they start saying that I didn't do anything, because the average amount of people that died in Western Europe during peacetime was roughly 400 to 600 a year due to training accidents, vehicle rollovers, accidents, death by misadventure. More people died yearly in Western Germany than some years in Afghanistan. So it's like, you know what? It was more dangerous for me to be in the back of a 5-ton driven by a drunken 17-year-old with a hangover who's probably swilling out a bottle of whiskey in the back of a truck built in 1948 than I risked my life too, because, you know, they would flip over if they hit a beer can. So don't talk to me that we were never in danger. Okay. I worked with radiation and chemicals. Don't tell me I was never in danger. Go sit with the Vietnam guys and shut the fuck up. But if they're like telling me what it was like, I will sit and listen all day, fascinated, because they're part of a different army, different equipment, different ROE, different goals, different objectives, different warfighting methods. I mean, some of it's science fiction. I mean, some of it's science fiction for me. I mean, drones were science fiction. You know, drones, you know, body armor, you know, that was science fiction. You know, here's your Kevlar vest. Good luck, sucker. And, you know, and I love listening to them, and I don't bag on them, you know, unless they start in on me. And, you know, I don't even know how we got on this topic, but But yeah, it's I don't denigrate them because the boomers denigrated us and they didn't know anything about the army we were in. It was like, look, I'm sorry that I can't get high smoking pot out of an M16 and then go buy a 12-year-old girl and then meet her out and then throw her out of a helicopter when you're done with her.
Oh,
That started a fight at the VA, that was fun. I finally had to
yeah,
whip that guy's ass.
I bet.
God, I hated him. I hated him. But anyway, so back to Behold Humanity. So what came out of my brain? I had no plan. I had no outline. I had no flow chart. I had no nothing. I had no notes. I wrote the entirety of Behold Humanity from my brain. And one thing is it isn't like modern science fiction. A lot of modern science fiction is either, oh, we just need to all be friends, or humans are the real monsters. No. The enemies in this are real monsters. I stole the concept of you can't really copyright an idea or concept. So unliving starships is Saberhagen really took off with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I mugged Saberhagen in an alley and took all his stuff.
The Berserker series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you read that, you're like, this looks suspiciously like stuff out of the Berserker series. And I'll go, yep. Because I had this idea. My brain had this idea. Why should I reinvent stuff that's already out there? Why should I reinvent it? I mean, you can't copyright an idea. You can't trademark an idea. As long as I didn't call them berserkers, and as long as I didn't use his universe, and I could use gigantic robotic spaceships the size of Australia, and so I added them the size of Australia. One of the big ones is the size of Eurasia, and that's something you use a C+ cannon on. And the C+ cannon is such a simple concept, but you never see it in science fiction. C+ cannon is you have a huge slug of iron the size of a train freight car, and you strap a faster than light engine to it. And so it skips in and out of FTL as it homes in. Now, how many of you remember that abomination that Disney put out where they had the light skipping? Yeah.
Oh.
Saberhagen came up with it, only instead of using it for a ridiculous way, because I don't care how fast your reflexes are not good enough to handle light speed skipping in atmosphere. And when they hit atmosphere, they should have exploded, because they're not hitting air. They're hitting a solid wall of plasma. But yeah, it's light speed skipping with a iron slug the size of a freight car. So when it hits, it's at like 0.9. It's like at 99.9% of light speed, and it bypasses the shields and armor and explodes inside the spaceship. These are the kind of weapons that I was like, I'm not reinventing them. The wave motion gun from Star Blazers, I just called it something else. Why should I reinvent it?
Yeah, there you go.
Why should I reinvent it? And everybody's like, oh, you have to come up with new stuff. Why should I come up with new stuff? Harlan Ellison can eat a bag of dicks. Oh, I can copyright ideas. Shut the fuck up, Harlan. Most of your stuff you stole. But I stole the end plot point from one of Mickey Splain's books, where the baby that Mickey Splain has been taking care of and trying to find out who murdered the baby's father. The bad guy, clocks my camera in the back of the head and drops him on the floor, and is now standing over my camera talking mad shit. And the baby finally manages to grab my camera's 45, which the baby has been trying to do the entire book. And the gun goes off and kills the bad guy. Everybody thought I stole it from The Simpsons, which Maggie shoots Mr. Burns. I'm like, no, I stole it from Mickey Spillane. I took ideas, and I was unapologetic about it, because my heroes are, I have a guy who starts as a janitor and ends as a legend. And then the interesting thing is, when he dies on the front porch of his house, surrounded by his friends of old age. Is Daxon Freeborn a monster? Yeah. But is he a defender of humanity? Absolutely. I use power armor. I have martial orders. I'm sorry. Games Workshop can talk all the shit they want, but their Space Marines are just Templars in power armor instead of regular power armor, and you don't own that concept. The Templars beat you to it. You certainly don't own Space Marine, since the term Space Marine and the exact term you use was actually written before anybody working for you was born. I mean,
Well, they sure seem to think that they own the concept of pauldrons.
they seem to think they own the concept of military sci-fi, and they don't.
No.
I also get a lot of compliments because I use combined arms. Because let's face it, Endgame would have looked a lot different when Thanos came out with his army if they would have had close air and artillery support.
I mean, and in some cases, well, the direction it's going these days, I wouldn't even say it's good science fiction anymore.
And my big thing was to entertain my fans. My big thing was I want my fans to enjoy themselves. And one thing that I didn't do is how many authors and how many screenwriters and directors or producers and companies have you seen where somebody guesses where it's going, or somebody guesses the twist, or somebody guesses, what's going to happen, and so they run back and they completely rewrite it. You see it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, I invented this thing called foreshadowing. I invented it. M. Night Shyamalan stole it from me. That's right. But I invented foreshadowing, which, if you're an experienced writer and you know stuff about writing, stuff about stories, foreshadowing is putting all the bread crumbs and the clues so that the reader can say, aha, this is what happened.
What? But what about mystery boxes that never pay off? I mean, that's a thing.
Bullshit. I don't do that. What, Ironcaster?
Oh, I was paying attention all along. It worked.
Yeah. And I love it because my fans would be like, oh, yeah, this is going to happen. And I'd sit there and read the comment. And I'd be like, I love that you know where it's going. I love that you figured it out. Because my brain would go, he's right. I don't know. This is the great thing. I don't know. And my brain would go, oh, yeah, that guy's right. And I'd be like, very nice. I also like to hide pop culture references. Some of them are hidden pretty well. Some of them are not hidden at all. I mean, they're just right out there. For example, oh God, I can't remember exactly how I framed it, but it's the Sailor Moon Sisterhood. And basically, they're living weapons. They're genetically engineered, and what you actually see is just the physical manifestation of basically the firepower of a Death Star in a pocket dimension, and it's channeled through what looks like a teenage girl.
Oh God.
I'm
almost afraid to ask which part of the body that energy comes from, but
the weapons.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, the weapons. But
dirty mind went somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, and it seems like that's ridiculous. You know what? My fans love it. My fans love stuff like that. I mean, they even love the part where the guy shows up in the tuxedo and what a beautiful night for a serenade, and throws a rose down. The Sailor Moon Sisterhood shows up and wrecks everything and leaves, and he goes, "My job here is done." And the alien sitting in the sauna goes, "But you didn't do anything." And then he vanishes in a swirl of his cape. Because I'm sorry, that's great. That's fun, and people love that stuff.
They do.
They really do. People love it.
Well, yeah, pop culture references are cool. I mean, and this is a pop culture channel. I mean, we love stuff like this. It's why you're here.
I mean, I wrote it so that it was fun, and I wrote it so it wasn't grimdark because I wrote it during COVID, and people really struggled with COVID. I was lucky, I have a family. I was trained in biological warfare, so by the time we figured out what the real R naught was, I didn't give a shit anymore. I'd already caught it, so I didn't think I could catch it again, and I didn't. And I was doing stuff, but other people had such a hard time. I mean, they really, really did. And I wanted to give them stuff that they could read and enjoy. I didn't want to do a George R. Martin with everybody's terrible and it's a terrible world and you can't trust anybody and nobody does anything out of the goodness of their heart. But COVID showed that was a lie, because you had people out there risking their lives to take groceries and supplies to people who were immunocompromised. At the time, they thought they were risking their lives. Turns out, no. You had people putting themselves in what they thought. It doesn't matter what we knew later. At the moment, at the time, they thought they were risking their lives to do stuff. And not for money, not for fame, but because they thought it was the right thing to do. And everybody else is writing grim, dark, end of the world apocalypse stuff. I wanted to give people hope that I saw in, the food banks were still open. And those workers were going to the food banks and making sure people could get food. And if you were too afraid to go to the food bank, or you were immunocompromised, you had people like me and my son-in-law who would go to the food bank, load stuff up into the truck, and take it to those people and leave it on their front porch. But all you got was doom and gloom. And I wanted people to say, no, humanity isn't the monster. In the series, is humanity the monster? Oh God, yes. Every alien is afraid of us. They're terrified of us. And because we are the ultimate killing machine. But the first thing out of our mouth is, do you need assistance? Humanity in this tries to lift everybody else up. What?
Oh, that kind of just reminds me of a joke. Well, it's actually, but it was in one of the comics. There was some kind of an alien race or something that was coming. They were chasing someone to Earth. They reached Earth. The alien armada shows up, and they're like, "Well, who is this planet? We've never heard of Earthlings before." So they start scanning it and everything, and they're like, "We need to turn back immediately. Why? Because this planet has repelled Galactus 6 times."
Yes. Oh, there was another one where the guy ran out there and he had found out about Galactus and everything else in the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, and he ran into the throne room to tell the prince, I think it was the Skrulls, not to invade the planet. And they executed the dude before he could say anything. And then they invaded the planet and got their asses kicked. I went with, we can kick everybody's ass. And yeah, we did have people calling the police on their neighbors for having friends. And that just shows, to me, that shows everybody asks, how in Nazi Germany could people report their friends and neighbors to the SS? Well, my brother in Christ, you reported your neighbors to the Gestapo and to the Stasi because they went outside. So how about if you sit down and shut up for the rest of your life? I mean, yeah, it definitely. But no, I wanted to give people stuff with hope and stuff with, somebody said paragons. And Pathak was in there. Pathak has been described as a guy so lucky that he could win the lottery trying to buy a sandwich. The Pathak Chronicles are the best because good old Pathak wins the war against humans. He almost single-handedly. He makes us give up the secrets to ice cream and cigarettes and birth control. That was actually part of the treaty. And later he makes a porn video. And then he saves Christmas. He totally on purpose and not at all accidentally saves Christmas. He's right up there with Kiss and Daxon Save Christmas. Don't ask. And then he totally faced off against the malevolent Holiday Gord and won. Yeah, Pathak's great. I love Pathak.
Pathak's funny.
He's lucky. He's lucky and he's clever. The Trinad are clever people who won 29.8% of all combat engagements against the Terrans. And nobody else has a record that comes close. And the Trinad will ride that statistic to the end of time. They're so proud of that statistic that they put it on a big obelisk and put it out between the galactic arms for other people to marvel over later. God. The series has got plenty of comedy in it, plenty of jokes. I have been accused of I break the well, yeah, I break the fourth wall. There's actually a part where there's a really small text that goes, I see you sitting there looking at me, reading what I'm doing. I see you. And the readers were like, okay, this is creepy because we still don't know who that is. We're into the third series and we still don't know who that is. I don't know. I wish I did. My brain does, but my brain's not telling me. But I want to give people, jokes. And I've been accused of breaking the tension. And it's after the battle, then there's the jokes. Then there's the humor. And there is, someone was like, oh, people don't draw that many dicks on everything. I'm like, have you ever been in the military? Well, no, then be quiet.
Yes, they do.
People in the military draw dicks on everything.
We used to play Payday 2 together, and it's like whenever you'd get to the planning map, we'd always draw a dick in the planning map.
Draw a dick in the planning map. There's a scene where this guy gets a brand new tank. You know, he's a general, and he goes up to his tank, and somebody drew a dick on him before he got there, and he's mad. He's not mad because somebody drew a dick on it. He's mad because somebody drew a dick on it before he could. And you know the joke of you thought it was such and such, but it was me, Dio, all along.
Oh yeah,
I run that joke into the fucking ground.
It was Dio all along.
There's a Lanic. It's one of the species. There's this basically the vice general of an entire military court. He's looking at the back of his hat where there's a dick drawn on it, and then he's glaring at all the humans, and the caption says, "Someone drew a dick on your hat. You thought it was the Terrans." And then underneath is a picture of the commanding general of the entire corps laughing wildly, and it says, "But it was me, your superior, all along." People love references like that.
Oh, I finally figured out which series it was that Ringo did that I didn't like, because he's done a ton of. It was the Council Wars.
Ringo did Council Wars. I thought, okay, yeah, you don't piss me off about the Council Wars. He never finished it.
What did he get to?
Book 3. Or does he have a 4th out now?
I think he's got a 4th one out. Let me take a look. Council Wars: East of the Sun, West of the Moon, from 2006.
That's 3.
That's 4. Because it's there will be dragons. Then it's Emerald Sea. Then it's Against the Tide. Then it's East of the Sun, West of the Moon.
How many pages is East of the Sun, West of the Moon?
That I can't tell you because there's no entry for it. No.
Okay, yeah, because East of the Sun, West of the Moon was a short story.
Ah, okay.
It was really short, and it was blarg.
Well, what was pissing me off about that is,
he still didn't finish it.
Yeah, you follow the main character along who's like, deformed slightly and everything, and then he gets fixed genetically, and he's all like simpy in love with this girl who just doesn't give him the time of day and keeps turning her back on him, and it happens in 3 books, and I'm just kind of like, Jesus Christ, this is stupid.
Like, you look like a Greek god. Why are you simping over this girl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just dumb.
He let so many things drop in the Council Wars. They had so much cool stuff set up, and then East of the West. East of the whatever ends with just 2 of the characters drinking margaritas on the beach. And it's like, this better not be the end of the series, and it was. And it's like, I hate him so much.
Yeah, well, he's got other series out, and some of my friends praise his other work, but that one pissed me off.
It really did, and but people like it, so hey, they like it. That's fine. It can piss me off, and I don't like it, and that doesn't mean that other people are wrong for liking it.
No, of course not.
Unless you like Song of Ice and Fire, and then I judge you.
I tried to read it, and that was well before the 8th season came out. So yeah, in my defense, I thought we were on our way to a good series, and about 5th season I realized this is gonna suck, isn't it?
I remember you were all thrilled with it in the early days, and I was like, watch what's gonna happen. You're like, oh, it's gonna be great, and then you were like, I hate this series.
Oh,
what?
Oh no, I mean just the T-shirt was right. You were right.
Yeah, Ralts was right. Yeah,
and people that like the show, that's great, because the show doesn't really the show follows the books right up until the end of that last one, and I think it's hilarious. If I was George R.R. Martin, I would finish the series even if I just had even if it was 1 page that said "and then they lived happily ever after," because of the way the last book ends. The last book ends with the mother of dragons having dysentery and shitting her guts out in a field by herself.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, he's just so preoccupied telling us about everything going wrong with the current show that
he's also preoccupied with telling us Orange Man bad, Blue Man good. Stop that. And oh god, seeing that fat fuck talk about draft dodging when he is a known draft dodger, and saying that Papa Tolkien, that Tolkien doesn't understand war the way I do. You dodged the draft, you fat fuck.
Yeah, Tolkien was in World War One. He's pretty much came out of that thing traumatized because he saw all his friends get killed.
And then he's like, "Oh, with the threat of nuclear war higher than ever, you lying boomer faggot." Sorry, it's no,
Jeez.
it is not worse than it's ever been. I remember, the Soviet ambassador to the UN banging his shoe, yelling, "We will bury you." We were kind of close then.
Oh, Brezhnev, yeah.
It's like, there was that Tukov? There was bombers loaded up with nuclear weapons 35 miles from Western Germany. Don't tell me we're closer now than we ever were before. Sit your fat ass down. For God's sake, comb your beard and dust your shirt off and start writing.
Yeah.
What's my number one advice? I will give any prospective writers that are reading this. It doesn't matter if you're writing RPGs. It doesn't matter if you're writing movie scripts. It doesn't matter if you're writing books. It doesn't matter if you're writing poems about dicks. Sit down, write, and finish it. If you finish it, you are ahead of 90% of people who want to be a writer.
True.
It doesn't
Very
matter
true.
if the ending is terrible. You finished it. And don't trust traditional publishers. This is what I learned from my time with it. Traditional publishers sell, number one, they control your book. They decide when it goes out, what the cover looks like, what's the blurb on the back, how it's advertised, how it's marketed. They also have their editors tell you, the story's good, but we want you to change the main character to a blind albino weasel. They want to make editorial changes to your book to match the story in their head that they came up with when they were reading your stuff. They don't want to publish your story. They want to publish what they imagined your story is.
It's probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm almost I understand that there needs to be an editorial process, but at the same time, I'm almost kind of the opinion that editors are, in a way, the same thing as the, what are these people called who work for Wizards of the Coast who are supposed to make sure that it's, the what? Sensitivity readers, yes. It's like, you hire editors to find problems. So, of course, they're going to find problems. Mm-hmm. And same thing with the sensitivity readers. The sensitivity readers are there to find stuff that is insensitive because that's their job.
I had somebody say, I went through the first 100 chapters of your work just to show you that as a sensitivity reader, you should hire me. I didn't even open the attachment. I just wrote back, LOL, get fucked. Sensitivity readers are terrible. And here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. If you want to be a writer, don't use Grammarly.
Really?
Have you noticed how many books read the same? The author's voice is exactly the same book to book.
Because it's all being done by the same program.
It's all done by Grammarly. That's why you have the same word choices, the same sentence flow, the same author's voice. It's Grammarly.
Jeez,
it's Grammarly.
I've never used it.
I can tell within 10 pages if they used Grammarly. I don't know how. It's just my brain goes, they use Grammarly. But my brain's always worked weird. There's parts of it that, they work, but it won't work when I tell it to.
Yeah.
The part that's like, yeah, that's totally fake. Why? It is. Just listen to me. Fine. I'm going to go back. You be quiet or I'll go back to killing you with beer.
Well, we're about to hit the 2-hour mark, my man. So is there any last second things you want to get out there? We put up.
If you want to get into Behold Humanity, I finished the series. So it's not going to leave you hanging. And yes, there was a few unanswered plot points and a few unanswered things. But I've already answered them in the third series is just the bridge. The second series is just a bridge between the first and third. It's just for fun. The second real series, I've already opened the bag. Everything's already on track. It's new enemies. I'm not rehashing old enemies. I'm not bringing them back bigger and badder than ever. I'm making new enemies. My brain said, hey, we've got new enemies, and they're kind of cool. So, you don't have to worry about me dropping this series because I got bored. Thank you, Jonathan. That's nice of you to say. But you don't have to worry about me dropping the series because I got bored. I've already written it. It's already done. I'm just going to put the books out.
Yeah.
And I do a bare minimum. Here's the other thing. If you don't have money, if you're poor, times are tough, life is hard. We had to buy our own Christmas cards. It's available on Reddit 8/HFY and on Royal Road for free. If you only have $10 left, buy yourself something good to eat, give yourself a little treat, and read my stuff for free. If you can't afford to read my stuff because you don't have the money and you still want to, my brother, times are tough. Read it for free. It won't hurt me. And once you get money, buy a book and support me. But if you can't, I totally get it because I've been there. I've been where I'm eating food, I'm living off food stamps. I got no gas for the car, so I got to walk to work, and I got to make the choice between paying the electricity or paying the natural gas. And after the guy who turned off my water leaves, I'm gonna go out there with a wrench and turn my water back on. I've been there, brother. Been there, sister. So if you can't afford it, but you need escapism because life is so tough right now, read my stuff for free. You're welcome to it. So you can support me by leaving a comment, or you can buy the books, or you can just read it and relax a little bit. That's it right there. That's all it is. So yeah, sorry.
No, that's awesome. And I appreciate that too. I'm not going to read it for free. Obviously, I'm going to get the omnibuses when I can and get to them when I can, because I've got so much reading right now. I mean, I'm trying to get through Jack Vance. I'm trying to get through some Piers Anthony stuff. And then I've got all my game book stuff I've still got to read too. So I'm swamped. But
and all the disconnected chapters of the first book do come together. So even Born Whole with the elf, that is a critical thing, and it was the only way my brain could describe what later is called the Elven Court, which completely rebioengineers damaged planets. That's the kind of science fiction it is. A damaged planet. We've created a biological system that'll completely rebuild the ecosystem and made them into elves because we're weird.
There you go. All right, guys. Like I said, we're up to our 2-hour mark, which is way more than I intended, but that's okay. I mean, I had a long rant, and I know that, and I had a lot to say, I guess, even though I really didn't know what I was going to say when I got on the stream. But, Ralts obviously had a lot to say. And I hope he'll continue to, hang out with us on Week in Geek, because, yeah, I love having him on. I like hearing his insights into the stuff that we talk about. And, he's a friend. So,
and yes, I did put it on Kindle Unlimited, so that if you have Kindle, you can, read the whole thing. Enjoy it.
Yep.
Because times are tough, baby. And if it's a choice between gasoline, so you can take your kid to the park and buy him an ice cream cone, in my book, buy that child an ice cream cone, because you'll never get that moment back. And my book will still be there.
There you go.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good. You're good. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're catching us on the flip side. Hey, I hope you enjoyed catching us on the flip side. Leave us a comment. Subscribe if you haven't. Like. And we will see you on Tuesday, because there will not be a game tomorrow, because Grimm's computer is dead. So we'll see you Tuesday night with Tuesday with Geeks. Until then, have a great week in Geek from all of us.
Bye.
Bye.
On behalf of the staff of the Independent California Motel, I wish you all sweet dreams.